How is it going, everyone? What's going on? This is July 17th, 2024. This is RambleCast. I'm Cody Toombs, your host, and sitting with me virtually is a Corbin Davenport.
Hello.
It's been a hot week. That's my takeaway.
It's very hot.
I'm not happy about it.
I'm trying not to have a power bill that's like $150 this month. So I'm sweating a bit. It's okay. I'm not going to lift up my arms.
Yes, that's pretty fair. And yeah, I know honestly, like, I'm trying to do some shopping for an air conditioning unit just because I figured that the one I have is probably not that efficient, and hoping that replacing it, I don't think it would pay for itself like right away, but over at least this summer and next summer probably would.
Yeah.
But yeah, anyway, heat. It's awful. So speaking
Good thing the climate's going back to normal.
Oh,
right.
Yes, it's fixing itself as we speak.
Yeah.
And that's how these things work, or so I'm told. But hey, speaking of things that are awful, let's talk about AT&T.
Ooh, got him.
Got it. All the gots. Yeah, anyway, AT&T did a well, they didn't do an oopsie. An oopsie happened to them. I mean, it's a little bit their fault, but
they did an oopsie.
Their fault.
Yeah, they did an oopsie.
Look, they're still doing better than T-Mobile. So
it sure seems like they gave some data to someone they shouldn't have given data to, and then that got leaked. So
yup,
very much so. I did get the text from Cricket yesterday that was like, hey, we leaked your data. We don't have to do anything. Go fuck yourself. And just be a little bit more careful, I guess. I don't know. That's what we got.
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely not a great situation. So the everyone's making a point of calling this metadata. I don't actually agree with that as a term of choice, but yeah. The metadata about your calls and texts, if you're an AT&T customer or user, subscriber, whatever, or if you are using AT&T via a MVNO, then anybody that you called or sent a text message to, the times, dates, and the destination of those calls and texts has been leaked in its entirety for almost all users. There are supposedly some exceptions, but I don't think, as far as I'm aware, they did not disclose what those exceptions are. But they basically said it's nearly everybody.
Yeah, and it's like, it's not even just AT&T customers, because like if you called someone who was on AT&T, and then that's your data too. Maybe not anything useful, but some context is there.
Right. Okay, so Austin saying, yeah, this data isn't very useful. It is and it's not. There are some aspects where this is useful. In fact, actually, some companies will kill for this kind of information. In particular, any company that can link a number to a specific person. At that point, if they can associate you with, let's say, the phone numbers of other companies that you've called, they can at least assert that you've probably been a customer of those companies or have been at possibly shopping with or otherwise contacting them for some reason. But generally speaking, you get the idea. There's a bit of an angle where certain phone numbers are associated with sending like verification codes. So if you've received text messages from certain numbers, they can assert that you are a user of at least a certain list of services. Maybe not a specific one, but at least some territory. But let's be real, all that data has been out there for years. Yes, because AT&T, T-Mobile, Verizon, Sprint when it still existed, US Cellular, for however much longer that'll exist, and every other company has been selling it. So yes, the data has been out there. Now it's just more out there.
Yeah, T-Mobile is still the king of leaking everyone's data over and over again.
They really are. But
there's no consequences. You know, like
stage, no.
Like best case scenario, there's like a class action where in 5 years you might get like $13, and that's about the most we can ever get from these.
Yeah.
Because we still don't have privacy laws, and we're not getting privacy laws because Congress doesn't work anymore. So that's fun.
Yeah. There. Honestly, I think there's actually probably a lot of different discussions that could stem off from that one, but we'll save it for another time.
Oh, that does remind me. I have another topic. I'll put it in. There was the whole Mozilla thing that came up. I'll find it while you keep talking.
Okay. Yeah. Anyway, so I don't agree that the data is not useful, but I will say for individual people, it's probably not going to be particularly critical. Or at least not for most. There are going to be a rare few, where you're going to have cases of, like, come to find out, I don't know, I'm just going to say a random name, a completely randomly chosen name. Come to find out, Trump's fixer called another set of porn stars. I don't know, just a random theory, choice, whatever. That sort of information would be valuable to more people, in one capacity or another. So, you know, some of the information could, again, you have to be able to link some of this stuff to individual people, but once you know this stuff, you never know. Some of that data could actually be highly valuable, but you just won't know till you find out. Or in some cases, work in reverse. If you can find a phone number belonging to something that is just inherently a bad thing or controversial, you could probably make some, you could probably just go down a full list of anyone that's called them and start blackmailing. But yeah, anyway. So yeah, I think that's about it on that. So let's see. Talking Mozilla.
Yeah, so there's not like a ton to say here, but there has been a little bit of a llama drama with Firefox recently. So Firefox 128 was released, and it has a new feature called Privacy Preserving Attribution, or PPA. And this was enabled by default. And it's a feature that basically allows sites and ads on websites to just like tell if you clicked on it. If you like clicked on an ad, like very low level stuff, it's pretty anonymous, or like, you know, as anonymous as you can get this stuff. And there was a lot of people upset about this, and I saw like one guy from Mozilla trying to do damage control on Mastodon, and it wasn't going on that well. And a couple of other news outlets, and I saw at least one like open source influencer guy was like making everyone panic about this. And I think it's kind of interesting. I want to eventually write a blog post about this, um, because this is kind of another example of Mozilla trying to do something where they're trying to find a balance between what like publishers and the ad industry would like and what is best for its users. So like for example, Firefox isolates all cookies. Like you cannot have cross-site cookies in Firefox, which is something that Chrome will also have when it fully removes cookies, but that has not happened yet. And the default Firefox settings, I think, does like the low-level privacy blocking. So like it'll block like some analytics stuff, but not all of it, and a lot of ads still work. So this is kind of another example of that, and I saw like a lot of people were like, "Oh man, here goes Mozilla," putting its users in the trash again. They're trying to work with the evil ad people again, and I want to appreciate that Mozilla tries to make this stuff work. Like tries to go to advertisers and be like, "Hey guys, what you're doing is not cool. Let's work on something that is a little bit more privacy respecting, something a little bit less creepy. And if you can do that, we'll turn it on by default in Firefox for you." But it kind of just annoys their users more. And Mozilla does not have the market share anymore to do anything like this. They're not Apple. Safari can bully publishers around quite a bit, and Chrome is the main gatekeeper of the web. And those are really the only two that can do much. So there's been a lot of back and forth about this, and it's been interesting to watch, and it kind of again makes me think about like what is the purpose of Mozilla? Like what should they be doing? Because they're trying their darndest to be like a tech company. They have a bunch of different branches. They're doing different stuff. They do acquisitions. They just bought Fake Spot a little while ago. They have like other services they try to do, because ultimately their issue is still that most of their money comes from Google being the default search engine for their web browser, which is kind of like against the point of like everything else they say, but like they kind of have to do that or else they don't exist. But like I don't know, maybe a much leaner Mozilla operation like wouldn't need that, and they could survive off other ways, but I really don't know. But that's a whole can of worms that open again because of this attribution feature. People aren't happy that it's enabled by default, and the setting doesn't seem to like synchronize if you turn it off, so you got to turn it off on all your devices, which is also how they handle search engines. I'm gonna assume that's intentional, because everything else in my Firefox syncs except the search engine. So yeah, it's a thing. If you see people panicking like, "Oh my God, Mozilla sold all of us out," not really. It's just kind of like another thing they're trying that probably they shouldn't be trying. Like I don't know, and it just gets annoying when I see people like this is especially an issue on like hardcore tech communities like Mastodon and Lemmy and Reddit to a certain extent, where like you get a lot of people that are militant about like never seeing an ad ever. Like if you see an ad, I will kill you. Like that kind of output. And like I'm sure a lot of those people also aren't like paying for content some other way.
Yeah.
So it's kind of just a lot of people going online like bragging about how they're not like paying for anything they look at, or sites they like or whatever. And that kind of rubs me a little bit the wrong way, because that's how I'm paid. If everyone was like that, I would not have a job. But anyway, so
Well,
if you see
everyone was
people
like that, they wouldn't have anything to read either.
yeah, so if you see people panicking about the Firefox stuff, you don't have to panic. It's kind of dumb, but it's not like harmful in any way.
Yeah. Okay, so I haven't looked into too many of the details about how this is implemented, so I'm not really going to comment on that. But it does strike me as kind of I almost want to call it a silly uphill battle for Firefox to try to do this. The one way I could see them getting away with this is if they also approached Apple and said, look, Google is over there doing their thing. It's not playing out well. We all know it. So why don't you, the privacy advocates that you claim you are, and even Mozilla, I'm sure, looks at that and goes, yeah, you're full of it, but let's pretend. And yeah, if the two of them kind of gang up, they could make this happen. Yeah. It's a stretch, but they could make this happen. But these are two companies that I think also don't want to work together that much, so it won't.
Yeah, and like I just like advertising companies are like the most capitalism that has ever capitalismed. And going to them and being like, hey, would you like to make less money? Like I'm sorry, like they're just you can't give them an inch. That they'll take a mile. So like again, I want to like try to appreciate Mozilla for trying, because I think they recognize that like ads, you can do ads more ethically, but it'll make less money, so advertisers are not going to do that. But Mozilla's trying, but advertisers are still not really going to do that. And I think eventually they might have to make a choice of like, do we just keep going down this route of trying to make everyone happy, and then by result no one's happy? Or do they just kind of go like the Apple route and be like, all right, screw everyone else. We're just going to block everything. Your websites might break. We don't care anymore. YOLO. We're going to do what we want. I don't know. I have to imagine also some people at Mozilla are looking over like Brave, who just constantly get away with saying like, oh, we're the most private, user respecting web browser. Meanwhile, they're like running an entire like crypto based ad network on top of it. Mozilla's probably like, what the hell, man? That's probably how I would feel if I was over there.
It's one of these days I'm gonna regret making comments like this, but it's almost like how conservatives say that one thing they believe in, and then everything they do after that is in complete opposition. And Corbin now has to cancel our tour.
Yeah. And also, those conservatives are the ones running Brave, so that checks out.
Yeah, it really does.
Don't look at who funded Brave. Give you a hint. His first name is Peter. You can Google the rest.
Yes. So let's see. Can I spin this into a good I guess the UTM thing.
Okay.
I don't know what to go to next, so that's what we're going to next. And you know what this is, I do not.
Yeah, I know what it is, but I just closed the tab. Carson's Peter Parker. Yeah. I mean, he doesn't have that much money, so funding Brave was like $10.
I mean, Peter Parker did at one point actually go to work for Oscorp in one of the comics. So
well, in the MCU, if he pawned off something that Iron Man gave him, he might have money. Yeah.
Well, just take whatever his oldest suit is out of the dozens of them
Yeah.
and sells that.
Go trade it in.
Okay, but whoever you trade it to is going to give you Samsung prices, and that's just not worth it.
Yeah.
You're going to get like 2% of the value.
Sold that Stark Industry stock. Okay, so we got a new emulator just dropped on iPhone. Okay. There was a whole back and forth about this one, where, so if you've never heard of it, UTM is a front end GUI for QEMU, QEMU, whatever that's pronounced. I don't know or care. It's been on. I don't like that.
No, I'm kidding.
It's been on Mac and jailbroken iPhones and iPads for a long time. I have it on my Mac. It's fine. And ever since Apple announced their new rule for the App Store, where you can have retro emulators on the App Store, the dev has been trying to get this on the App Store, and initially it was rejected because the PC was not deemed a retro platform, even though like there was like a back and forth about like I think Apple at one point said like retro console, and like PC isn't a console, but like there was already like C64 emulators on the App Store, so it's like distinction without a difference, guys. Mm-hmm. So I'm sure Apple's rules were vague enough for them to do whatever they want, but eventually someone conceded, and now we have UTM SE on the App Store, which is the first like big PC emulator on the iPhone and iPad App Store. And the main difference here is that this does not have just-in-time translation like the proper version of UTM. So it's much slower. It can emulate. I haven't tried it myself, but apparently it's fine for like MS-DOS stuff. It's fine for like a classic Mac emulation. You can run like Mac OS 9 in here. I know someone at the person who was writing the news for this at How to Geek was like trying it on his iPhone, and it was trying Windows XP, and the startup was taking like a very long time. So I don't know if that's usable or not. So kind of cool, but not really useful for anything modern because it's missing that just in time. So if you were hoping to run like Windows 7 or like a somewhat modern Linux or something like that, still no. Sorry.
Yeah, well, I have basically nothing to add to this except to say it's kind of funny when Apple's rules kind of get forcibly changed, and then the result is, oh, we can still only push something that's not at all what anybody wants. It's not the greatest look for this, because it just further demonstrates how much this was kind of a farce so far.
And I do wonder if like anyone's gonna try to make like a very custom like Linux distro or something for this, to like just like absolute bare bones Ubuntu server or something, like whatever might run. That would be interesting.
Yeah, actually, I'd kind of like to see that. I don't think it's going to be good, but
no,
kind of want to see it.
Very slow. So, yep, you can get another emulator. Add it to the pile.
All right. So, well, let's... do we want to talk about phones or Game Pass?
You do phones.
Okay.
I think you know what the phones are, so I don't have to be the main one talking for like 5 minutes.
Okay, then we'll move that one to the end.
Wow.
So I paid very little. Honestly, I paid so little attention to the Samsung thing. It's nothing against, but it's a little bit against. Anyway, so there have been some leaks about the Pixel 9s. We now have some images. We know what they're going to look like, and in a moment we're also going to talk about what they're going to see when they look back at us. But yeah, Carson.
That's exactly what I said when I pulled out that link. I was like, what am I looking at?
This is almost literally basically the conversation we're about to have. So they have revealed what the Pixel 9 Fold is going to look like, and I don't. We'll get to the others momentarily, but I don't think anyone's surprised by the Fold. The camera bump is it's doing this weird thing where it just keeps growing bigger and bigger, and it keeps looking more and more awkward as it does it. At this stage, look, I'm just gonna say this in the harshest possible way. It looks like something Belkin would have sold out of a Staples back in 2005 to 2010. It just has that glued together plastic look to it, where none of the shapes look designed. I mean, they're designed, but not well. And it's a bunch of rounded shapes, but not uniform. I mean, you can actually look at the camera cutouts, and they don't perfectly line up with the edges of the camera bump. Or at least I don't think they do. Maybe for a little bit of the radius they do, but it's pretty minor. Like, this is not a good look. It does not look designed.
Yeah, I don't think you can do. I don't think you can do like this, like multiple shades of the color, like in the camera bump with the glass. It looks very weird and busy. Like, I think if you're gonna do this, then just do what Apple does and make like the entire bump like the black glass.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't like this. I don't like that on the. Is that the Fold that has the bump taking up like the corner? Yeah, I guess it is. Like, what are you doing there, guys? Like, why does it look like that? You've got like a raised area that's a different color, and then the camera glass is a different color, and you can also see the cameras in the glass. And especially on the Fold, where like the camera bump is not uniform, like now your phone's gonna wobble on the table, get wobbled.
Okay, I don't know for sure that this one's gonna wobble just because the bump is so large. I mean, if it's fully open, it will, obviously. But yeah, at least when it's closed, you shouldn't have wobble. But it still looks dumb. And silly. Austin saying it fits the collection, but not on its own. Okay, I don't dispute that, but I'm gonna throw the worst the worst wrench into that machine for you. People carrying a phone don't carry a whole collection with them, except me and a few other reviewers. Anyone who's carrying this phone is carrying it by itself. If they're smart, they're carrying it in some sort of case or something, or like, I don't know, maybe a vinyl sticker or something on it. But yeah, if anyone who's carrying this phone, they're carrying it by itself, and that's gonna look kind of bad.
I like Austin saying it's a foldable. If you put it on the table, it might break. That's true. Yeah, I don't like really care all that much. The discussions about like what a phone looks like from the back are always so funny to me, because like I'm not looking at that. That's not where the phone's facing from. But I do agree this is a downgrade in the manner in which I care about it.
Okay, I don't disagree with your point that you're not looking at the screen, but everyone else is. Or
No,
sorry,
they're not.
you're not
They're
looking at the back.
they're looking at my sparkly case, Cody. They're looking
Yes,
at my
yes,
Barbie
they are.
girl case on my phone.
Living in a Barbie world. Anyway, yeah, I mean, the thing is, people are looking at the back of your phone, or at least in certain circles they are. Believe me, I think back to my days of hanging out with a club-going girl in Las Vegas. Believe me, everyone definitely looked at your phone and judged you. It was very weird. And that was back in the days when smartphones were not really quite kicked off yet. But yeah, people do notice this stuff. I was actually going through this. This was a very weird experience. Actually, I was going through, and I mentioned this before, a Safeway self checkout, and the I'm gonna guess 60-some-year-old guy who was overseeing the checkout. He 100% looked over, spotted that I was carrying the same phone as him, and a Pixel 7, and he came over to make a point of saying, "Oh, I have the same phone," which was an unusual conversation to have in a tiny little city like this, especially with a guy his age. I expected neither of those things to overlap, but hey, there you go. Which also, someone recognized a Pixel, and it wasn't me. That alone even feels weird. We need to stop judging it so harshly, or the screen will crack. Nice.
Don't hurt its feelings.
Anyway, you know, fundamentally, it still comes down to this is just not an attractive looking rear side to the phone. That's not to say that they couldn't maybe fix the color choices before launch, like that. You know, at least they could make it look the same color. But I don't know that they're going to. Anyway, so
speaking of folding phones, there were other folding phones.
Well, I figured I was going to move down to the Pixel 9.
Oh, right. Okay.
Which, I mean, if you're looking at that camera bump, the camera bump by itself, I'm not a fan of the... Okay, look, I like that the camera bump runs from one end of the phone to the other. I'm good with that.
I squint...
Well, go ahead.
When I squint my eyes, it looks like the... if you remember Wally, the robot that like kept cleaning up Wally's tracks, Mo, it looks like Mo.
Okay.
Anyway.
I was kind of thinking that it looks like it's on its way to becoming GLaDOS.
Yeah.
I mean,
flip it sideways. Flip it sideways, and it's GLaDOS.
Yeah, very slow progression, but it's like piece by piece, it's going to become GLaDOS.
Yeah.
Anyway, this one looks dumb too, and it's the reason this one looks dumb is entirely because it's so weirdly off center, with almost half of it being dedicated to just the flash. And look, Barry has many things that he could be doing, and that's not one of them. Sorry, bad joke. But yeah, this looks, again, not good. What I do find interesting is the camera. Am I crazy, or did they make the camera way bigger? The main shooter. Carson, yes, literally just as I say that, you comment. That's exactly it. I swear that lens looks gigantic. Which a small part of me is sitting here, I was sitting just thinking, is Moment gonna have to like come out with a new mounting system almost immediately? Like, did T-Series just get completely screwed by Google doing this?
It's okay. No one buys Pixel phones, so it's there. It's fine.
Yeah, to be fair, I'm not sure anyone's buying T-Series lenses either. But I mean, they're good. but how many people need them?
Yeah, I mean, I was looking at one when I was ordering my case because I was like, should I get the telephoto because that's kind of cool? But I was like, not for $100. I think I'm okay.
Yeah, that is definitely part of the problem. Um, so yeah. Anyway, I'm just looking at this and I'm not into it. I do not love this look. Let's see. Did they have? Yes, they do have the Pro. So looking at the Pro, to me the Pro looks better and worse. It looks better in that at least you've got the black portion running almost all the way to the edge. You don't have this comically huge area dedicated to just a cutout for the flash. And what's the sensor below that? Is that I don't know what that sensor is.
I don't know. Maybe like IR.
Yeah. All right. Well, whatever it is, that part looks ugly. I hope that gets somehow covered up or color shifted in some way, but whatever. That's the ultra wide? No, I'm talking about the thing that is directly below the flash.
I think you said the ultra wide when we were talking about the big lens, the big boy lens. In the middle.
I don't think it is, because they never put they typically always put the primary shooter as close to the center as they can. Maybe they didn't this time, but I would kind of expect it to be. Also, that's the one that has the physically largest sensor. Okay. Well, I'll trust you here, but I kind of want to check that later.
This has been fact checked by Patriots, by Cody's Mindspace Patriots.
Well, at least there's some facts somewhere. Anyway, so whatever this thing is below the flash, I'm gonna insist that it's still really ugly in this picture. Hopefully that's maybe either a trick of the light, or maybe that's like something because it's a prototype. I don't know, but yeah, that probably needs to go. I will say when you get to the darker Pixel 9 Pro, or wait, is this the large one? Is that what this is? The XL. Yeah, so this is the Pro XL. At least the colors that this one's in, and maybe the way the light hits it, it does look better. Still not loving the camera bump, but this one at least looks tolerable. I think that was all of the ones. Yeah, that's all the ones that are here. So speaking of cameras, we did also get a rumor / maybe leak that the selfie camera on the Pro and Pro XL might be 50 megapixel selfie cameras. Thoughts?
I mean, my thought is, I think we're long past the sensor count mattering. So I don't know if that really tells anything interesting. Yeah, sorry. So like, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I don't have any thoughts other than like, I mean, I guess if they can do like cool selfie stuff, that could be another differentiator to help it compete against the iPhone. Because it seemed like Apple's doing a whole lot there. Like the front camera's just kind of there. Like it's got to be there for Face ID stuff, and it also takes pictures. And FaceTime. It's all AI anti-aging. Oh God, we're gonna go back to like 2016, 17, like peak beauty filter age. That was great. I loved when I was at Android Police and I'd get another like garbage LG phone to review, and it would always have their like awful beauty mode on by default. I'm like, wow, my face looks so messed up.
Yep.
I look like my face melt. I was in a horrific incident, and the doctors tried to rebuild my face with plastic, and didn't work.
So, fun fact, they actually sold that technology to whatever company makes to the T-Mobile Revel phones. Because that's the only phone I've ever reviewed for AP, and let me just tell you, oh boy, they had a beauty filter on that did some interesting stuff. I was unrecognizable to 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 some extent thanks to that filter. It was something. But okay, here's the thing. 50 megapixel, I don't think that they're going to be churning out 50 megapixel images. Like, this is definitely going to be bending them down.
Ben City.
Oh yeah, Ben City. But
It's actually 4 megapixel.
the thing is, if they're bending down the pixels, what I think this is going to end up being is, since they don't have a rear flash up front, like they can turn the screen white, but that's, only so effective. What I think this is really going to do is they're probably aiming to use the binning to effectively score a little bit of extra low light capability. It won't be perfect, but it will help with noise. It will give you a little bit better of an image, sort of. And yeah, I have a feeling that's why they're doing this. I'm curious if it makes sense to do that with just the pros, though. Look, I don't want to get into that weird, like, oh, the pro is just for the photographer types and the regular is for all the normal people, blah blah blah. Like, I don't think that's the case, especially when you get into pixel. Like, I think it's just the enthusiasts get the pro, and they get the regular for the rest of their family. Or if you're an enthusiast but care about small phones more than anything, then you're getting the smaller one. That said, I do just wonder, like, what audience is that really making the difference for? Or is this really just another thing to try to get people to upgrade from the regular to the pro? I don't know, maybe that's crazy, but part of me wonders honestly, like, have since the distinction between the last few pixels has basically been, do you want the extra telephoto camera? And some number of people have wait, is it the telephoto or the wide they are cutting out in this case? It's the telephoto. Okay. How many people were looking at the telephoto and basically saying, you know what, I don't really need it, I don't really use it, I don't care, so I'm just not going to get the pro anymore. I wonder if this is a tactic to convince that group, no, seriously, okay, you weren't using the telephoto enough to justify it, but how about better low light performance in your selfie camera?
How about we throw a selfie camera in there, sweeten the deal?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's not like too far off from like what Apple is doing now, where they're kind of looking for other differentiators on their lineup. So now it's like, well, the Pro iPhone and the regular iPhone are so similar now. What if we started using different chips just for fun? What, for funsies, we put different chips in them. And that's now like kind of the main difference now.
Yeah, and to some extent, I mean, don't get me wrong, I actually don't want any company doing this, but at the same time, I almost think they have to go back to this. Go back to the days when the differentiator was like, oh, we put a faster chip and more RAM into this one. Just straight up, like, it's a better, faster phone. Don't get me wrong, that's actually a terrible idea. They shouldn't do that because that's going to impact actual app performance, which is the thing most people actually care about in day-to-day usage. I'm okay with the idea that the cameras are the thing that they're kind of slapping down. But at the same time, honestly, I kind of just wish that they would go back to what they did with the Pixels of many years ago and just say, yeah, no, it's identical specs across the board. The only difference is one's big, one's small. And the bigger one, by virtue of being bigger, has a bigger screen and bigger battery. Like, can we just go back to that?
I also think they should go back to the older Pixels. And by that, I mean I should be able to squeeze the phone to make it do stuff.
I mean, squeeze it hard enough, something will happen.
Especially with that Pixel Fold.
Yes.
Don't want to add the squeezing gesture to
that. No. If you all you have to do is squeeze it hard enough, put a or train a camera on it as you do this, and make sure to put a very, very boomy mic in front of you so you can do voiceover, and you two can be a really rich YouTuber.
Yeah.
Sorry. Unnecessary slap at Jerry Rig, but hey. So
speaking of folding phone.
Yes.
Are we there yet?
Yes, we're there.
Okay. All right. So this is now very old news, but Cody was in inhumane conditions.
It was over 100 degrees, yes.
Yeah, so we didn't do a show last week, and that's fine. I didn't want to do it either.
Well,
but
you said you were sick, so
yeah, that was unpleasant.
Yeah, no one was going to do anything last week.
Yeah, and nothing happened, so it's fine. So Samsung had their Unpacked event in Paris, where they announced new Galaxy Z Flip 6 and Galaxy Z Fold 6, as well as a bunch of accessories. So the Fold and Flip, I think it's interesting that like this is still kind of like seen as a cutting edge product category, but these are changing about as little as their main phones from year to year. Like the difference between this and the 5 is like with the Fold they like changed the aspect ratio again, so now it's more of a normal size when you're using it, like when it's folded up. The aspect ratio is pretty close to like a normal phone, and then it opens up, it's a little bit wider than it used to be, whereas before it was very slim. Kind of looks silly. And then I think the Flip mostly is like back screen like improvements to the cover display. Austin said American folding phones are so boring. I don't think Samsung is American, sir. You might want to check your facts. And the ones that are sold here, I know what he meant. Yeah, we don't get cool phones anymore because of Huawei and because of woke. So,
God, we're going in hard with the burns.
Yeah, because of wokeness, we don't get Huawei's cool phones. So yeah, there's not really a lot different here. There's the different aspect ratio on the Fold, and the Flip is, I think, mostly cover screen stuff, and Samsung only wanted to talk about AI stuff, of course, and all the AI stuff is like cloud stuff, so it's not even hardware based. It's just like launching here first, and presumably it will come to other phones soon. And I don't really care about any of the AI stuff, so I didn't read that. The other announcements were they have new earbuds. So they have the Galaxy Buds 3 Pro, which look an awful lot like AirPods Pro, just by total quinkadink. And they also announced the Galaxy Buds 3, like the regular ones, which look a lot like Apple AirPods. I'm sure that was also just a coincidence. And That was they also, it's not on this link, but they also released new Galaxy Watches. So there's the Galaxy Watch 7 and then the Galaxy Watch Ultra, which happens to look a lot like the Apple Watch Ultra. So so Samsung's event was basically minimal updates for their folding phones, which by the way will still like self-destruct after a year. And a lot of accessories that copy Apple pretty shamelessly. Um, so I don't know, kind of disappointing, but like also that's kind of what I expect them to do because we're all copying each other and we're all doing the tech convergent evolution stuff. Um, I will say if the one thing that annoys me with Samsung's accessories is that they've completely given up on supporting non-Android devices. And if you have an Android device that's not Samsung, then you also lose out on features. So if the Galaxy Buds 3 was like normal and had like an iPhone app for configuring some of the stuff, I might get them, but they don't, so I won't. Because I've been waiting a very long time for Apple to release USB-C AirPods. It seems like a very simple thing that they should have done already. They've not done it. And I know someone is going to hear me. This happens every time I say this. Someone is going to be like, "Well, Corbin, buy the AirPods Pro." I'm like, I can't because my ears are broken. Okay, they don't. They my ears. Every single in-ear pair of earbuds, they just fall out. Doesn't matter. I've had a bunch of them over the years. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter what like material the ear tips are made of. They just fall out. I can only do like the outer ear, the ones that's in there, like Apple. These are the wired ear pods, and these are fine. And Samsung made ones that are like that, but they don't want to really support all devices. So, oh well.
It is kind of funny. I've noticed more and more earbuds over the last, probably about the last year, that unless the company already had like a pre-notable presence on iPhone, they've actually kind of walked back their support for iPhone. Um, like JBL, it's not a big thing, but because they definitely still have an app, you can definitely still use this with an iPhone. But JBL's buds, like even in the manual, it's kind of funny. They they say if you're using an Android phone, all you have to do is just open up the case and you've got Google Fast Pair. If you're anywhere near a Windows machine, um, same thing, except whatever Microsoft's thing is called, I forget what it is. Um, and then in the manual, it says other, just under other, and it shows a picture of the iPhone. No mention of the brand or anything like that. It's just very plainly other. Um, oh, that's right. Samsung does own JBL. I forgot about that.
Yeah.
But to be fair, JBL it operates pretty independently from Samsung.
Yeah, they've got like I remember they have like smart speakers with Google Assistant and Alexa and stuff. Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, I don't know. It's weird. Like I know Samsung has I've noticed them walking back on it. They stopped. Like they also still have an app, but I think the last pair of earbuds or like accessories that work with iPhone was like a couple years ago. Like Galaxy Buds Live, I think work with them. I don't know if anything after that did. And then I think you could use the Tizen based Galaxy watches with iPhone, but then when they switched to Wear, they stopped doing that because I don't think Wear 4 ever supported iPhones. So that part wasn't necessarily up to them. But even in other devices where they could support iPhone, they just don't want to. Uh, so that's disappointing. And I was also looking at a couple different earbuds because Apple again is dragging their feet doing this very basic thing. And I was looking at some JBL ones, but the main issue I have with Bluetooth stuff that is very hard to research is I need audio devices that do not make me go into a pairing mode when I want to switch devices. And it's very difficult to like Google for that, and a lot of people just don't test it at all. So like that's a hard thing to like. Apple does that great, even for like non-Apple stuff. If I have AirPods connected to something that is not Apple, and I click it in my Bluetooth menu, they will switch over. My Sony XM5s, great, they have no problem switching stuff. But there's a bunch of earbuds I remember reviewing, years ago, uh, that don't. They're like, nope, put them back in the case, press the button to switch. And
Yeah.
it's very annoying, and it's annoying when reviewers don't test that, and it's more annoying when like that's not like a thing that's listed anywhere in the specs. That's like a software implementation that they need to work on.
Yeah. Um I have I definitely used to test that. And I mean I still would, but I haven't done a whole lot of earbud reviews in the last year. Um but the sort of the great thing for me is all the ones that I've been reviewing in the last year or so, they've all had multi-point. So testing that exact feature or testing that exact behavior is kind of less of an issue. Plus, they all have a memory of like 8 devices, so
Right.
for the most part, you don't need to test that as much because of that memory. But if you're not in one of the last 2 devices, a lot of times you still have to go to the old device, or sorry, go to the device you want to connect if it's not one of those last 2, and like manually say connect to this thing, and then it'll kick out whoever number 2 was.
Yeah, I don't I think I reviewed one thing one time that had multi-point, and it was like a little bit janky. I didn't really like the experience. I think my XM5s have that,
Yeah, they do.
but I don't like I know I see the use case that comes up the most often with that is like I'm listening to music on my computer and I get a phone call, and then I'll switch to the phone. But I barely get phone calls, so I don't need that.
Well,
And also, my phone calls go through my computer because Apple set that up. So
yeah. Um okay, there's that. Also on the list is it's not just phone calls, but you get notification chimes. Um which sometimes is great, sometimes is annoying. It depends. Um and Uh oh, and then sometimes, and it depends on the multi-point implementation. If one thing is sending you audio and then the other thing you turn on audio, certain multi-point implementations will be like, "Oh, well, the old thing probably is not serious. The new thing probably is, so let's switch the audio to that." Some multi-points will be like, "Nope. Whoever's playing audio now, you get to be the dominant one." And like notifications break through, but nothing else. And then there's the third group, which this is so rare, and I've never found earbuds that do this. I have seen headphones do it, but not earbuds. They will mix them. So you can actually, like, it's so rare to find, but you can find multi-point where it's like, oh, you're playing audio, you're playing audio, you're hearing both. I wish more did that. And or I wish I had the option. I want the option to get that.
I'm surprised Bluetooth just doesn't give up. Like the weak protocol it is.
It's yeah. And in fairness, I don't know that that's a thing you can really get with Bluetooth. I mean, you definitely can. Like Bluetooth actually has the bandwidth to pull that off, depending on the codecs. Um, but I think the headphones that do that are usually Wi-Fi direct.
Yeah, that makes sense. Um, so yeah, a bunch of Samsung stuff, but they hate me and my iPhone. So I will not buy their silly earbuds, and I will just keep waiting for Apple to eventually make USB-C earbuds. Don't know when that's gonna happen. They make wired, uh, you know, USB-C earpods, but like I don't need those. I have these have a headphone jack, and then like when I like need to use USB-C, I can use my dongle. It's fine.
I'll
Um, like when I'm reviewing this Lenovo laptop behind me that doesn't have a headphone jack, so I needed my dongle for that.
I will tell you when they're. I actually know. I don't have a date, but I know exactly when they're going to release the USB-C AirPods. The same day that they release USB-C for
Yeah,
this,
yeah,
which is never.
I know.
You
Apple's so
a-holes.
funny. It has fully been like 10 years since they shipped that stupid MacBook that was USB C only, but they're still like, no, we're not done yet.
Yeah.
We'll get there eventually.
For peripherals that are Mac only to still be the only things that are using a port that
Yeah.
was made for iPhones only, that is
I think they're
wild.
just gonna fuck with you, and the new ones are gonna be like ADB, um, or like FireWire or something. Just like oh, you want a new port, right?
Um, hey, look, people will hate on this, but I will take any USB standard that is not uh USB B, USB, or mini USB. I will take A, I'll take micro, I'll take C. Any of those three. I will even take. Don't get me wrong. I don't want to take it, but I will even take that messed up USB 3
Oh, the
double port
Samsung.
Samsung
Yeah, yeah.
thing. Yeah.
Ew,
I'll
ew.
even take that. Give it to me
Honest.
because you know you will still be able to plug in micro USB on the one side. You won't get as much power throughput or data throughput or whatever the hell they would do with it, but you could. I'll take it.
I don't know. I think I would take USB B over micro on something new because at least like micro I have far more cables for, but micro is garbage. It like will
USB
snap.
B is garbage,
It feels more solid. Like I feel like I'm gonna break it less easily. That would be my main thing.
but it's almost always loose.
That's
It
true.
wants to fall out.
It wants to leave.
I mean, it's nowhere near as bad as Mini. Mini was the oh god, you could plug in Mini and it's just like it. I'm trying to think of a not inappropriate way to describe Mini. um, and I don't have one. Let's just say it never fits. Mini is always like a good 10% smaller than the port, and it was just awful. Um, yeah, no.
Yeah, I mean I have it on my microphone here, and it's definitely not
As he
not super.
fiddles with the
It does, yeah,
microphone on a
just gonna
podcast.
I'm gonna unplug my mic.
Hey, look, I've got micro on this one, so I'm with you.
Oh, gross.
Yeah, and look, I don't fiddle with this one. I don't mess with it. I don't bump into it. And I know that it is actually having problems
Mm.
because the few times that I've had to move it or do anything with it, I've noticed that it actually does occasionally disconnect. And it's like, nope, nope, this is ridiculous. This should not happen on something
Let
that's
it
at
let
this,
it
I mean, it's effectively solid state.
let it be said in the record. Cody does not fiddle. That should be stated.
I do not get on the roof, nor do I fiddle.
He does not fiddle. So yeah, that was Samsung. Should I do the Game Pass stuff and then take off, or a different one and then take off because I need to get food soon.
I have good news. It's just the Game
Okay,
Pass one, and
great.
I figured as a goof I'd quickly ask, did you order anything for Prime Day?
No,
Okay.
no. I was thinking about the very overpriced Roomba that does like mopping and stuff.
Hmm.
Because it was like half off, and I know someone who actually bought in. They were like, everyone should have this. And I was thinking of a new router because I do want to get a new router at some point soon. But it wasn't any of the routers that like I really want. It was mostly just Eros, and I don't really want to stay on Eero. I'd like to get something else, and I don't think I need the vacuum right now. uh, it'd be nice, but like I have a pretty small apartment. It's not really that big of a deal if I get the Swiffer mop out. It's probably better for me to move around more. So so that's okay. I can Swiffer.
I
I can Swiffer out.
I love that that's the threshold.
Yeah, I
Um,
mean that's why I
that's
like.
Corbin's exercise for the week.
Yeah, I mean, because I can't go outside right now. You crazy? I'm
Corbin
not going on. I'm not going on walks. It's like 1,000,000 degrees outside. The South wants to kill me.
Corbin is going
Uh,
to stand up for 5 minutes, and
yeah. Oh no,
holy
it's
crap,
at least it's
that's
at least 10, Cody. My almost
oh
my entire
oh
apartment is linoleum.
oh okay.
So yeah, yeah.
Um,
So I have my Swiffer and I have my Dumb as Rocks Anchor Roomba clone. That he tries his best. He wants to eat the power cables a lot, but besides that, he's fine.
nice.
Yeah,
Um,
it's one of those like really dumb ones that like it doesn't bump into the wall most of the time. It does have a little sensor, and it can find its way home sometimes
nice.
when it needs to plug in. But it doesn't have like a bag it will put crap in or like more advanced sensors or like any way to like any of the cool zone stuff you're supposed to use to like keep it from going underneath like cabinets and trying to eat cables. So he's pretty stupid, but he does a good job most of the time. He just needs to be slightly supervised.
You know, I'll never get over the time, and this is kind of in reference to what you said kind of early on in that story about you knew someone else who got one of these and said everyone should have one. Um, Many years ago, I got one of the early. It wasn't first generation, but it was definitely one of the early Roombas. And this couple had come over to my house. They were trying it. It doesn't matter why. Anyway, this couple came over to my house. Um, uh, my my girlfriend at the time knew the guy. He was a real estate agent, so he was trying to show her places. Anyway, his girlfriend, uh, she's standing down in the lower floor with me, and she sees the Roomba there, and it's just parked against the wall in its charging cradle, and she's like, I think she asked a brief question about it, and then goes, "I don't get why people, like, are people so lazy that they need this stuff? Like, why do people need this? Is it that hard to vacuum? You know?" And as she's saying this, it, it started out as a question and very quickly became condescending and sort of almost mean.
Yeah.
And I'm hearing this and thinking, what's wrong with you?
Why
Like,
do you need a dishwasher?
that
Can't you
that was
why
literally what I said to her.
yeah, like why do you need a washing machine?
Yeah.
Why do you need an oven? You can get a fire.
Okay. An oven's a little bit of a different story, but yeah, I mean, look, you could take your clothes and wash them in a sink. You could take your dishes and wash them in a sink. It's shocking how there's all these things that you have machines to do this for you. Why do you do it?
Yeah,
Why do you use these machines? Because they save you time. I look, I
I mean, for me, the robot vacuum is more. Well, first of all, I don't have a normal vacuum. Ever since I moved, I only have the robot vacuum. So the robot vacuum is my only vacuum. And also the thing with the robot vacuums is that they can get under places that if I was walking around with a vacuum I cannot get, but like there's still like dust and crap under there, so that needs to be cleaned ideally. So
That's fair. Um, yeah, I. The thing is, in my book, well, going back to then, certainly, at that time, I was working as a software engineer doing contracting work. I got paid by the hour, and I got paid pretty well by the hour. Uh, Fact of the matter is, the amount of time that would spend vacuuming if I did it by hand, if you compare that to the cost of getting the vacuum, like it's not even funny how
yeah.
how ridiculous it would be. Like literally the argument becomes I absolutely shouldn't just have the vacuum. I should probably buy a second one because it might save me a couple more minutes. Like that's the level of difference that it makes if your time is valuable enough. Um so, you know, I I don't know how long it's going to take necessarily to vacuum or to mop floors or do anything like that, but if it's going to save you enough time and you can directly equate that to cost, if you can directly equate that to productivity or just being happier, 100% you should just you should have these things. These are machines that it's not costing you anything outside of the money to have these, except in Corbin's case where it's literally going to cost some exercise. Um,
hmm This is also why sometimes I instead of doing grocery pickup, I'll just go to the grocery store because it's like that's me getting out of the house. It's like I should probably walk around some. Um,
yes.
yeah,
Um, yeah. So
and you know, also being a white person, you know, it's kind of fun walking around in Target. So I'm glad you thought that was funny. That's good.
well, you. I have the choice of either laughing or crying, so
Yeah.
I'm going with laugh.
Anyway, speaking of crying, um, Game
Yes.
Pass is now more expensive. It's
Yes.
very sad. So I don't know what Microsoft is doing. I don't know if they know what they're doing. They just did the thing where they closed some game studios, including the one that made Hi-Fi Rush, and then like a week later, whoever is running the Xbox part, I forget his name, was like, "We need more studios making games like Hi-Fi Rush."
Yeah.
So I don't think they know what they're doing anymore, and they're not selling Xbox consoles that well. And now I don't know what they're doing with the subscriptions, but they announced a pretty significant overhaul to how they do Game Pass on PC and console. So this is the most convoluted stuff. But before now, if you had an Xbox, they had Game Pass Core, which was Xbox Live Gold. You need that for multiplayer. And when they renamed it to Game Pass Core, they added like a couple games in there. And then there was the Game Pass console, which was all the games. But you still needed core if you wanted online. So probably most people had both, I would assume. And then there was Game Pass Ultimate that has everything in those tiers, and you could, you know, use it on your PC too. And it had like the stuff from EA and all that, and the cloud and all that fun stuff. And if you were on PC, there was just like the PC Game Pass and then the Ultimate. So now they switched that up. So now there is no more console only Game Pass. There is just the Game Pass Core, which is the thing with you're getting, you know, you need that for online gameplay in most games, and it has some games in it. And that is now more expensive. So that jumped from for 12 months that jumped from 60 a year to 75 a year, which I think is the worst part of all this, because again, like you need that for online multiplayer. And you don't get a choice of like, well, what if I just want the online multiplayer? I don't want any games. Too bad. There's games in it and you have to pay more now. So that's pretty irritating. I don't think that's really a good way to like try growing Xbox market share, which is the thing Microsoft has been really struggling with the past couple of years. But what do I know? I'm not a marketing guy. And then the console only Game Pass went away. So if you have an Xbox, you get the core, or you just get Game Pass Ultra, which is also going up in price. So in the US, that went from $16.99 a month to 20 a month. But like again, it's like a little bit of a weird stuff because the Game Pass for console is going away, but like a lot of people probably had that in the core, and jumping from those two together to Ultimate is like I think like a couple bucks, so there wasn't really that big of a difference. But anyway, and also if you're on PC, then the PC Game Pass went up a little bit, and the price for Ultimate is the same, so it's 20 a month now, and I can understand the like the Game Pass Ultimate kind of going up in price because that did not feel sustainable. Um, but that's kind of a lot, um, especially when like I'll say like I stacked up on Game Pass Ultimate for a while, and there hasn't really been a lot recently that I've wanted to play. I have got a lot of use out of it, like playing a bunch, like trying a bunch of older games that I probably wouldn't have bought on their own. Um, but like in the first like year, I had old like Game Pass Ultimate. If I'm counting the games I played for more than like 2 hours, is probably like Starfield, um, Outer Worlds, Mass Effect, and that's kind of it. So I'm probably not gonna stay subscribed when mine ends. I'll think about it. But I'm not really getting a lot of use out of mine. But I'm weird, so that might not be true for everyone. But no one likes price increases, and I kind of get the need for the Game Pass Ultimate to go up in price, because again, it didn't really seem plausible at the current rate. But Game Pass Core going up in price is pretty insulting.
Yeah.
Um, like they need to, I say this, they need to. I know they don't need to because they're here to make money, but like they need to make the online multiplayer free, or just do something that's like, if you literally only want the multiplayer to work, pay us like $2 a month or something. Which is something that like is closer to what Nintendo does, where they have their Switch Online, which is just online multiplayer and cloud saves and like whatever their like NES games are. Like that's what you get, and it's dirt cheap. Now, granted, it's dirt cheap because Nintendo doesn't know how to run servers, so you're not actually getting a lot of value for your money. Um, for me, that's mostly playing Mario Kart Online. That's what I pay Nintendo for, and nothing else. But um, I would like to see Microsoft fix that, because they're not really selling that many Xbox consoles, and they're probably going to see a drop in subscribers from this. Maybe they'll pick back up when they have more games and they get like all the Call of Duties in there or something. But I don't know. The price increase there makes sense because, as Netflix has shown, you can raise prices many times and you're still fine. um, but yeah,
So, yeah, I don't know that I see much of a reason. Well, okay. Actually, let me start on the connection side of it. First off, I think it is just morally and ethically evil to charge for online multiplayer. Now, individual games could do this, or you could, for games where that's actually just legitimately necessary to cover like server costs and stuff like that. Fine, go ahead, put some sort of a solution in place for that. Um, the fact that there are online multiplayer that's literally it doesn't need that at all, and they charge for that. That's dumb. Um, PlayStation is a little bit better than Xbox from what I'm hearing. Maybe I've got that wrong.
I think I checked, and the subscription, from what I understand, the thing you need on PlayStation consoles is the PlayStation Gold thing.
Well, I think it's just Plus.
Okay. Yeah, and I think when I looked, it was like identical to this pricing. Yeah, it's PlayStation Plus Essential. So I'll put this in the YouTube chat.
Okay.
Essential gets you the online multiplayer that is $9.99 a month or 80 a year, and that gets you the online support, some monthly games, and quote unquote exclusive discounts. So
The good thing is and when I said that they're better, my understanding is they don't charge for as many, or there's certain games that they kind of look the other way. They don't mind that they're online games because they are only online games.
there's games on Xbox as well where I think the rule is like, and also Switch. Like I think they can work out a deal with the console makers where it's like if you're hosting like most or all of your infrastructure, then it's fine. Like Fortnite, I don't think needs paid online for anything on any
Right.
platform because I'm sure Epic was like, "We're doing all of it. Can you just let us through?" And they're like, "Sure, buddy, whatever."
The same
Um,
is true with, let's say, Fall Guys and Overwatch.
yeah, yeah.
Um, However, and I forgive me, I don't know what games they were. I've heard this in the past. I have heard of a few examples where certain there are a few games that are on PlayStation that are well, I mean they're also on Xbox, but on PlayStation those do not require the subscription, but on Xbox they do. I Sorry, I don't know what the examples are, and maybe they don't even exist now. Maybe those are from past generations, but that used to be a thing, at least. Um, that being said, uh, and again, just putting the punctuation mark on the fact that I hate the idea of paying for online play when it's not a thing for PC. Plain and simple. Like, no one is charging PC players for this. If you're not charging PC players for it, why are you charging console players? Anyway, so there's that. Um, the other side of it is just talking about strategy here. I think Microsoft goofed hard, and mostly in their timing, because I mean, it's not like we're going to have the new generation consoles coming in the next year. Not really. I mean, we there's going to be a PS Pro, but um we're not looking down the barrel of the next major console generation for either of them. That said, man, what a bad taste Microsoft is going to put in the mouth of every person who is looking at this stuff. And Game Pass is going to look like a really bad thing by the time they do get to that next generation, which they could be unintentionally ceding the generations back to Sony just by virtue of making their own thing look bad. Because at this stage, I mean, realistically, if you're getting an Xbox, it's not that you have no choice, but you don't have a lot of choice. You kind of have to now get Game Pass.
Right, at least core, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know because I thought I don't pay a ton of attention to Sony, but their strategy seems more clear. Like they have a much higher priority, at least for now, on selling the boxes and selling games individually. Like they're not trying to do subscription. They're not trying to do like a cross platform like all access thing. They're not a services company.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and they're changing that a little bit, like trying to do like a PC launcher and like having the cross play stuff, but like that has not like fully materialized yet. Um, Whereas Microsoft is trying to do the services, which makes sense if like the hardware and sort of like ecosystem is built around that. But like as it stands, you're still paying a lot for like the Series X, and every time there's like a big exciting deal for like the Series S, it's like, oh wow, it has 3 months of Game Pass on it, and I don't know. There's not. I don't really see a coherent strategy anymore. Um, if there was one in the first place, because the hardware is not cheap to incentivize the service, and also the service is going up in price. So it seems this is more a strategy, I would assume, where the goal is like they have crazy market share and they're just gonna let now like wring out their customers for all they're worth. But they don't. They don't. They're not doing well. They're not selling a lot of Xboxes. Like a lot of stores are just not gonna sell physical Xbox games anymore because it's not worth the space on the shelf. Um,
Well, and that is also a side of their strategy, which kind of has come back to bite them in a roundabout way. I mean, if if you if you create a subscription service, a Netflix style service for games, how many people are going to go to a store to buy those games? I mean, look,
yeah,
the digital stores were already killing a lot of the physical purchases. So when Microsoft or Sony or Nintendo sells a digital copy of a game, they Walmart isn't getting any of that. Best Buy's not getting any of that. No company outside of Sony and the game developer, and probably a couple of others who have some amount of their finger in the pie. Uh, no one else is getting any share of that. So, by having a digital store in the first place, they were already competing. But seeing as a lot of the digital stores were expensive and there's a fairly sizable group that still likes the idea of being able to resell their games, because of this, physical copies still made sales. But if you're kind of shoving Game Pass down people's throats, as Microsoft clearly is planning to do, then how many games are people going to be just looking at Game Pass and going, okay, well, you know what? I already have to pay for it. I, so I now have this other game. I would have bought it, but why would I do that now? I'm just going to play it for. I'm going to play it as part of Game Pass. I don't want Game Pass, but that's the only way I can play multiplayer with my friends in some other game.
yeah, yeah. There's not like a coherent. I don't really see a strategy anymore. It's just kind of.
Well, it
It
feels like
doesn't
a
seem like
sellout strategy.
they don't
Like,
want to sell Xbox consoles, and it seems like they want to just kind of raise prices a little bit on the people who they have successfully sold a service to.
mm-hmm.
So I don't know. It's weird. I don't know what their plan here is, um, except that I will probably not have Game Pass anymore. I think I'm good. The one thing I've learned having an Xbox is the games aren't quite as cheap on sale digitally as like PC, but it's pretty close. So basically every game I want, it just goes in the wish list, and then when it goes on the super deep sale, I buy it and I'll play that later, and that's been going pretty well for me. So
I don't play enough games, or at least I don't change games with any significant frequency. Um, a little bit of that is just cost savings, and a little bit of that is just not having the time to dedicate to too many titles. So, yeah, Game Pass already wasn't super appealing to me, but now, I mean, it looks 10 times worse.
Yeah,
And
like you need to really be playing new games a lot for this to make sense at all.
yeah, and
And
like when you do the math on this, it's not that it got insane. The price is not it has not shot up so much that all of a sudden it's like, oh my god, you need to play 5 games a month just to get your value out of it. It's not that bad, but I remember figuring out a while back that there was kind of this baseline limit back when I think it was when Game Pass first launched. I figured out as long as you play through 3 games a year, like you've gotten your value out of Game Pass as opposed to just buying the games outright. And so
right.
that made it worth it. Now, I I kind of I think at a bare minimum you have to play through 5. That might be wrong, but
Yeah, and one thing I forgot to mention also is that in place of the um, console only Game Pass, there is a now a like base Game Pass that will not have new games, which is like
mhm.
mostly the point of this.
Yeah.
Um, so I don't know what's going on.
Yeah,
Like I mean,
that one felt like a particular slap to the face.
like that one in theory would be perfect for me because I don't really play a whole lot of new games. So if you just give me a thing that's like, here's all the stuff you wanted to play 4 years ago, and it's pretty cheap. I'm like, all right, sounds good. But it's like buying them individually when they go on sale is also very cheap, and then I get it forever. So I, I don't know what's going on here. I'm sure like there's some marketing major in Microsoft that like figured out that this is like the best way to like min max revenue, but it's very weird to me.
What I think they're setting themselves up for is I think they're about to get bit really hard by I I'm trying to remember that what this is called, but basically that whole thing that I mean, I've talked about for ages and obviously others have. You sign up for whatever period of time to binge through a whole bunch of stuff and then you quit. You unsubscribe. You walk away from the thing for a few months and then you come back and sign up again for a month, 2 months, whatever. Binge stuff again and then leave again. That's what they're setting themselves up for. And with early Game Pass, the price on it I think was good enough that most people would say, you know what? No. I'm not going to bother with that. It's not worth it. I just want to have my games available to me. Now, as the price each time the price goes up, I feel like they're incentivizing, and especially with the change in terms that they just came up with, they're incentivizing people more and more to do that, you know, sort of sign up for a little while, binge as much stuff as you want to binge, and then leave. Just go buy the 1 or 2 games that you really care about having around to play that have continual play, and then everything else just nah, not my thing. Just walk away.
Yeah. And Kirby said it's forcing you to sign up for Ultimate, the older subscription. And like I don't know that it is. Like I don't know if that's a successful upselling tactic or not. I understood the upselling tactic on console before when it was like, you're paying for the online subscription and the console subscription. Don't you just want to pay for Ultimate? It's like $2 more replacing both of those. But like there's gonna be games on Ultimate that don't even like really launch day one. Like I this was the thing I was bitching about with Starfield, where Microsoft said over and over and over again, day one Game Pass, guys. If you pay for Game Pass, you'll get it day one. Oh, except we're going to invent a new day that is before day one and it's only accessible to the people who pay for the Ultimate Crazy Edition. Now, I did give them a tiny bit of credit where you could just do that upgrade if you had Game Pass, and it was like $20, and I paid for it. They got me because I wanted to pay Starfield, and I don't really regret it, but it was like kind of a shitty thing to do. So I don't actually know if they would like. Maybe they'll do that again with Call of Duty because they said over and over again the next Call of Duty will be day one. But are they going to invent a new day, a day zero? I don't know.
Yeah.
So like I don't know if that is a successful upselling tactic anymore because they already broke their promise with that in the past. Um,
Well, if there's any group that is willing to have promises broken to them over and over and over and over again, pretend that I just kept doing that long enough that the joke stopped being funny. Um, it's gamers.
mhm.
Gamers will just keep eating dog crap over and over and over and over
Gamers are
again.
so stupid. They're so stupid, dude.
I mean, I wasn't going to use the word stupid,
No,
but
a lot of them are pretty stupid.
it, gamers are a group that likes to be punished. And when I say gamers, obviously I'm not talking about gamers as a universal sense. I'm talking about hardcore gamers.
I am. All of them are stupid. Read a
Um,
book. Read a book, losers.
Corbin getting canceled. Um,
I'm talking about myself, but
yeah. Uh, but yeah, I mean, this is a group that they've. How many times have we seen pre-orders where the pre-order happens? Everyone's like, "Oh my god, I'm never getting a pre-order again." Until what, 3 months later, and you've got your next pre-order. You're never gonna. I don't know. You're gonna stop supporting some game. Like you're gonna stop buying their skins. Well, are you? I don't think you
mhm.
did. Like I see you over there wearing that Megatron skin on Ramatra. You didn't stop buying the skins. Also, worst skin of the group. Um, you can go down a long list of all the times that this stuff keeps happening, and yeah, fact is, gamers in the broad sense, certainly not every single one of them, but in a very large sense, the ones that are whales or will pay for anything, buy anything, they'll just keep doing this. They're happy to, or they'll say that they're never going to do it again, and every once in a while they'll stop themselves, but not often enough. Certainly not all the time, but maybe they'll look at some game and go, "Oh, you know what? I'll read the reviews before I commit or I'll read like the early access reviewers. People YouTubers that got early access. I'll check out what they say about something before I commit to the pre-order." And
Yeah.
then they hear one person say a good thing and it's like, "Okay, you know what? The other people are just being too harsh. This person says it's good. I trust them." And then they'll
Yeah.
pre-order. Like,
Like David said, I pre-ordered Cyberjunk, and I said I would never pre-order again, and then I pre-ordered Starfield. Yeah, yeah. That's why, like, I don't feel like I got, like, I don't think I got, like, it was kind of a shitty thing to be like, oh, you want to play it soon? Give us $20 more, please. But like, I did pay that because that's like the only new game I cared about in many years, and so far on track to stay that way. So it's like, all right, they can get me once. That's okay. I don't care enough about this to do this again.
yeah.
And again, I mostly enjoyed Starfield, so I don't feel like I got like ripped off in any way. Um,
So Austin saying, "I pre-ordered your mom." That's gotta suck because she was on Steam sale like 3 months later.
ooh, got him roasted.
I'm happy with that one. But yeah, this uh for for a group that Microsoft clearly, look, Microsoft has actually done, I would argue, phenomenally well in the gaming market, considering when they came in, they were coming in with a giant box with the original Xbox. to compete against the PlayStation. I was in college when they had a group of people come and introduce the Xbox. It was like this special event, which to this day, like I've talked about this with other people I was at that event with. We all kind of looked at each other like, what are they doing here? This doesn't make any sense. Why are they even holding this thing here? But they showed us an early prototype of the Xbox. They were hyping it up and talking about how they built it, and even openly admitting, yeah, it's basically just a PC inside. Like, isn't that cool, guys? Um, but we all thought that Microsoft was going to flop, and the original Xbox, I mean, honestly, it did okay, mostly because of Halo, like almost entirely because of Halo. And the Xbox 360 came out, and that was kind of actually that did amazingly well. And which to be fair had a lot to do with PlayStation goofing up on that generation. Um, and that like progressively, sure, Sony and Microsoft have traded generations. One generation, one of them will take the top place. The next generation, that'll switch to the other one. That happens. But for the most part, Microsoft came out of nowhere and immediately became a really legit player in the market. So, you know, we're talking about 20 plus years. Are we at 25 now? I don't know, something.
I think first Xbox was 2001.
It might have been.
So, yeah, I want to say 2001. I'm not
Okay.
going to Google it. You Google it.
Well,
Whoever's watching can Google it. We don't care.
I feel confident in saying that Kirby's saying 2001. Okay.
I'm so smart.
Uh, so, and I was gonna say I feel confident that it's at least, you know, we're over 20 years since it happened, so I'm just gonna round up to 25. Um. So, that being said, like that's 25 years of generally being pretty successful in the gaming market. For them to make the play that they're making, it doesn't feel like a company that knows their market.
No, I don't know why they like every time there's been like a holiday sale or something and I see the Series S on sale with like kind of not that cheap and just like 3 months of Game Pass or something. I'm like, are you guys trying? Like, I, I don't know. I think my final thought is they need to bring back Connect. I think that's what will save this.
um,
Bring
it's
back Connect. Bring back the optional HD DVD player. Um,
that actually could do it.
yeah.
Um, you know, I the thing is, you're saying you don't get what they're doing. I'm not really convinced that I see Sony being any better. I don't really get Sony's strategy. I don't know that they're really playing their side too well either, because they don't have an answer to Game Pass. I think by now everyone expected that to be a thing. They haven't really come up with a solution or answer in streaming.
Yeah,
Though
well,
to be fair, I'm not sure they need to.
yeah, they're not going to do a subscription because they need to make games first. Um,
That's kind of true too.
yeah, Microsoft makes games and then lays off everyone who worked on them, and then Sony doesn't make games and then will also still do some layoffs.
Yeah.
So you got to fix that.
So, yeah, I guess final thought is the gaming industry is in this weird place where some people certainly see gamers as dining well, but I think one, those people are deluding themselves. Um, there's an Adam who, if he heard me say that, would probably be furious at me right now. And two, I think what we're seeing is, I don't. It's not a beginning of the end, certainly, but I think we're at that razor thin edge before a lot of stuff is going to get really crummy. because I think we're going to see a lot of studios shut down. I mean, we already have seen a lot of studios shut down. I think it's about to get tangibly worse. And um, I think we're about to enter one of those really ugly phases where there's going to be a few big titles, but a lot of stuff is going to start coming out even buggier. They're going to be cutting budgets. They're going to be sort of building things, you know, even more with the mindset of, oh, ship it today and that way we can start making money and you can fix it later, right? You know, all it's going to take is like a month or two of bug fixes and then you can move on to the next project, which of course isn't true if you had 6 months worth of work left to do and then you're releasing it live. It's going to get worse, and but that's not how project managers and studio execs see things. So yeah, we might be going into, or at least I think we're probably going to go into a rough spot where it, where it's just going to start getting where the candle's going to be burned at both ends. Which, if I was to compare it to anything, it's kind of how Marvel movies have gone, where the effects used to be good, now they suck. The time that they take to shoot them used to be good, or used to be longer, and now they're trying to do it too quickly. The writing has been, well, the writing's been a mess for a while for many reasons. Like, yeah, I I have a weird feeling that that's what we're getting into. It's maybe an ugly place for gaming to be. So on that bright note, shall we wrap this one?
Yep, because I need food.
Okay. Well, so as usual, for those who would like to support the channel, there are links down below to Cash App, Streamlabs, and Patreon. Corbin, you did not pitch anything today. Oh, sorry, before that, huge thanks to Austin, Carson, David, Diablo, and Curvy Mermaid. Y'all are awesome. Curvy, congrats on the wedding. Now, Corbin, you did not pitch anything today of yours. Would you like to?
That was my congrats on the wedding. There we go.
Yay.
I actually didn't know about that. Congrats. Nope. Go to spacebar.news. Put your email in there and put the emails of everyone you know. I'm kidding. Don't do that because then they report for spam and I might get in trouble. You need to get their consent before signing up. You could be like, "I'm going to sign you up for this. It's going to change your life. Don't click this. Don't click the report a spam button."
Oh, I like that. Actually, you know what? I think I'm going to start the Don't Report a Spam newsletter.
That's a good idea.
That's literally just going to be its name.
They'll never see it coming.
They really won't. Anyway, so thank you all for coming by, hanging out, being part of the conversation, chilling out, doing some chit chat with us. It's awesome. And will I be back this weekend? Quick look says odds are high.
130 degrees.
So yeah, I tried out morning stream on this last Sunday. I am going to try to keep doing that. We will see how it works out. But I will try to do that this weekend and probably keep that going through the summer. Or indefinitely, possibly. I don't know. We'll see. But with that, I hope you all have an excellent rest of the night, rest of the weekend, and we'll catch you all in the next one. Good night, everybody.
Bye.